Okay, hello fans of Kirby Russia, and maybe people are watching the first video on this channel. Today's big topic in Russia-related news that we often discuss on this channel is the retirement, possibly forced retirement, of Victoria Nuland, the infamous lady that the sort of pro-Russian Anglosphere refer to as the Cookie Monster. Obviously, in Russian, she doesn't get called that because Sesame Street is not a thing in Russia. But anyways, Nuland has really been the central figure, sort of always at play behind this Ukrainian nightmare crisis, going all the way back to the Maidan Revolution, and to be honest, even before that. So you have to understand one of the key things about her retirement. We'll get into some of the theories as to why this happened. But one of the key things to understand about her is that she has been with this entire Ukrainian process of creating, of fostering this crisis, or as the Russians would see it, creating a genocide against them since the Obama administration. So she was sort of there through Obama, somehow kind of stuck around and retained influence through Trump. And obviously, she has been probably one of the most central figures and largest voices behind the war and the sanctions during the Biden era. Okay, so as they say, presidents change, but foreign policy remains the same, and that kind of applies to Victoria Nuland after all these years. However, now she quit, so maybe foreign policy is going to change. That's what we kind of have to talk about here. Now, as I was looking through the internet, some, let's just put it this way, better journalists than I found some, let's just say, information that sort of leans to her really retiring or giving up on her post, mostly in connection to the fact that they're finally starting to really investigate where all the money that was sent to Ukraine is going. We've kind of heard about this a few months back, that especially the Republicans wanted to sort of audit the Ukrainian money or really look into how these defense expenditures are going. And so that's kind of view number one, is that generally, as we've noticed, if we go back to especially like the 2008 financial crisis and the bank buyout or bailouts, not buyouts, bailouts. In some ways, it'd be nice if the government just bought them out. But anyways, bailouts. We kind of see that there's this very strong tendency where white collar crime, even when it's heinous, tends to not get punished if the person just vanishes. No matter how bad a CEO might be at a company, even if they completely destroy the company, as long as they kind of retire on their own and vanish, they don't really have to face any real significant consequences. And to be honest, although I saw some optimism from the pro-Russian Anglosphere that, yeah, Nuland's going to get it now, she's, no. I think in all likelihood, if I were a betting man and I had $100, I would bet $100 that she'll face absolutely zero consequences for her actions other than not having this sort of day-to-day job with its day-to-day salary. Obviously, her and her quite famous husband are pretty set up. She is not going to be financially hurting, and she's a person who is at the level where she can actually do the whole Hillary Clinton $30,000 speech thing, and I do believe that she'll be financially fine for the rest of her life. But again, the whole comfortable salary and maybe importance and the government and all that, that's now probably going to be behind her. So we kind of have, why did this happen? Number one is that she is doing this as a means to escape justice or some sort of prosecution, to sort of do the classic white-collar criminal bow-out technique, which almost always works. So there's some validity to that, but the next sort of theory as to why this is happening is the scapegoat theory. That some people are saying that they really believe that Nuland is going to be the big scapegoat. That because the whole Ukrainian thing, the war in Russia, where it's believed for the most part that many in Washington really thought that Russia would collapse under the weight of the sanctions, and that fully supporting with NATO, to an extent with NATO troops called mercenaries, at least, and some NATO trainers and all that, and a whole heck of a lot of NATO equipment, this, that, and the other, that the Ukrainians would be able to sort of maybe not defeat the Russians, but completely grind them down, and the grind down would cause a Russian society to fracture, and goodbye Putin. So all these things that the war would have offered, an economic collapse, a possible military collapse of the Russian Federation, did not happen, and in fact the opposite happened. So we could say that someone's gonna have to take the blame for this. Not necessarily though. So that's one thing where the people who believe in this theory definitely believe that there is actually a sort of a sense of justice in the world. And when it comes to the sort of more globalist-minded people on this planet, I don't think they really think that way. So I'm not quite sure if anyone is really gonna need to find a scapegoat, because I don't think they care, and they're sort of beyond prosecution anyways, for the most part. Well, except for Jeffrey Epstein. But you see what I mean? So I'm not quite sure. It kind of, that logic makes sense from the standpoint of like you and me who are normies, and how justice would affect us. Like if we did something so bad, we would get in deep doo-doo. All right, but this type of person, like Victoria Nuland, is, like it says, probably not going to. So I don't know. The scapegoat theory, it makes sense. But again, also one thing is, if the scapegoat theory is true, we'll have to think about this, that we need one person to take the blame for all this, and she was kind of the key central gray cardinal, as they say in Russian, working behind the scenes, the puppet master of this Ukrainian crisis, now turned to war, possibly genocide of the Russians. Um, I don't think that they're really going to scapegoat her, and we haven't seen anything in the media like that. That's what I was trying to say, is that, if she was going to be the scapegoat, where's the scapegoating? Where's the media explosion? I haven't seen it. We haven't seen the entire Western mainstream media, as they love to do, parrot the exact same phrase from coast to coast on every channel, major and minor, and every online magazine or whatever, say the exact phrase that they're fed from their news feeds or whatever. And that hasn't happened. There is no real blame game going on that I've noticed. Maybe I'm missing out on something, but you can't say that she's a scapegoat without scapegoating happening on like at least an America-wide level, if not a global English-wide mainstream media level. Okay, so that's theory number 2. Theory number 3 is kind of where we get maybe, I think, closest to reality. But again, this is kind of hard to, again, if you have $100, what do you bet on? It's a little bit tough here, because remember, they could start scapegoating any day. But number 3 is that Nuland was such a key figure and core figure of this, that getting rid of her allows for a change in direction. And again, you and me, my friend, we are normies, and when we hear about a change in direction in politics, we think, that's right, someone good is going to come in there, and they're going to make a deal with the Russians, and we're going to be able to put this behind us, and there's going to be no threat of nuclear war, and everyone's kids are going to grow up to be happy and healthy and all this other stuff. That's kind of how we react to these things. But to be honest, I think it's more just a matter of maybe trying to con the Russians into thinking that something has changed, or that they just need a new, different anti-Russian strategy run by someone who can achieve the destructive results that Nuland sort of promised or hinted at, but couldn't deliver. So I don't think this is going to be perhaps a change for the better, but just a change for the different, if you know what I mean, for the different strategy, or maybe, shoes removed again because this is all blown up in their faces. Well, who knows? Maybe they're going to turn their eye of evil towards Taiwan or somewhere else on the map. And so it's connected with that. It's kind of a symbol that we're moving on. And again, too, you have to remember that in the context of like people like Nuland are essentially seen, the same way that many Jewish people after World War II viewed a certain former German political officials and media officials and military officials. Let's just say that's the way that Russians view her. So again, if they're going to try to do anything with Russia, and again, this is no guarantee that they're going to stop lying or stop breaking their deals with Russia, but she's definitely a big barrier towards that. It's kind of like after World War II, if they hadn't have killed off Big Daddy H's inner crew of let's just say wrongdoers, it'd be like trying for the Israelis to try to like negotiate with Goering or Himmler or any one of those guys, you know, who are really deep in the movement. It just wouldn't work. They'd have to be removed in order for those negotiations to go forward. And that maybe that's what's happening. Maybe that's a very simple explanation. But again, have we seen any negotiations happening? Have we heard about any major negotiations happening now that she's been gone for 2 days? Well, they could happen tomorrow, but they haven't happened yet. So, guys, Victoria Nuland, this key figure, a sort of, people have been saying, an almost Kissinger-esque figure. In fact, I saw an article that said that kind of had proof that she's actually was more destructive in her use of U.S. Foreign power than Kissinger was, which is interesting. I'm not quite sure about that, but it's food for thought. So this major figure is going to be at least out of the limelight for a little bit. Who knows? She might come back. She is definitely a true 21st century Democrat, that's for sure. So, anyways, this is maybe at the very least, a small feel-good victory, not a valuable victory, but a small feel-good victory for a lot of people in Russia. And at the very least, like I just mentioned, it whether she's a scapegoat or not, or whether she's a sign of things are changing, or whether she's just trying to escape prosecution, regardless, her going away is definitely a good step towards the potential to start some sort of rapprochement, I believe is the proper term, or as in sane English, you know, the actual restart that was promised to the Russians by Hillary Clinton long ago with that stupid button. Yes.